very strangely shaped, and it comes from another star. And that's what has everybody looking at it with every telescope they.
It was just a whisper at first, a flicker across the sky, so brief that most would have missed it. But for those who were watching, really watching, it was a shiver down the spine of the universe. Something had entered our solar system in 2017, uninvited, unannounced, and unlike anything we'd ever seen before. It didn't roar or shine. It didn't come with warnings or signals. It simply passed through, silent and strange, leaving behind a trail of questions far colder than its surface. We called it Oumuamua, a name from Hawaiian meaning a messenger from afar arriving first. A poetic name, almost too poetic for something so alien. From the moment it was detected, this object defied every rule in the book. It wasn't round. It wasn't chaotic. It didn't behave like a comet or an asteroid or anything that should exist in the space between stars. And just like that, before we could aim every instrument in our arsenal at it, it was gone, sailing past the sun, skimming the edges of our awareness, and vanishing into the dark. But the story didn't end there. The mystery only grew, taking root in the minds of scientists and dreamers alike. What was it? A chunk of rock flung from a dying world? An ancient relic or something? Built? The theories came in waves, natural, artificial, alien. And then came the silence. Years of not knowing, years of wondering, until now. The James Webb Space Telescope, humanity's most powerful eye in the cosmos, was never meant to chase things like this. It was built to look at stars being born, galaxies in their infancy, the echoes of the Big Bang. But when it turned toward Oumuamua, when it really looked, the silence broke, and what it saw made the world hold its breath all over again. There, caught in its unblinking gaze, was not a blur, not a guess, not an artist's rendering, but the first real image. A long, narrow silhouette cutting through space like a blade through silk. No ragged edges, no tumbling chaos, just stillness, precision. A shape so deliberate, so strange. It reflected light in a way that didn't make sense. Cold and muted, yet eerily consistent. One side shimmering faintly like metal under moonlight. The other darker, textured like charred stone. It didn't spin like a rock should. It moved with a rhythm, a pulse, as if it knew how to balance itself, how to glide with purpose. And as it turned, the light didn't scatter randomly. It shifted in patterns, subtle, repeating. Along its center, faint grooves curled like ribs, circling its middle like a secret it wasn't ready to share. Not random fractures, not the wear and tear of a long voyage, but lines, deliberate, measured. People expected to see a relic of chaos, shattered debris from some forgotten planet, drifting without direction. But this didn't look like something left behind. It looked like something sent. There were no gases leaking from its surface, no icy jets, no tail like a comet, just smoothness, wholeness, an object that had crossed the abyss between stars and arrived untouched, or untouchable. The temperature data from Webb brought more confusion. One side of the object remained strangely warm, as if something beneath the surface was protecting it from the cold of space. Insulated, preserved, not dead exactly, just dormant. Every measurement, every pixel of this image, peeled away another layer of what we thought we knew. And in its place was not a clear answer, but something even more powerful. A deep, aching possibility. What if this wasn't just a cosmic rock? What if this was a message, not in words, but in presence? What if this was the universe knocking? And as we stared at that image, the first true image of Oumuamua, it stared back. The more the James Webb Telescope revealed, the more unsettling it became. Not in a frightening way, but in the way that only the unknown can unsettle the soul. We're used to seeing rocks, gas clouds, lifeless debris tumbling through space. But this was something else. There was a calm about it, a kind of silent intent, not aggressive, not inviting, just there, watching, waiting. As the telescope tracked its slow, silent path across the black canvas of space, patterns emerged, ones we couldn't explain away. The rotation wasn't chaotic, like most interstellar wanderers. It was precise, not fast, not erratic, just measured, like a pendulum with no clock, moving not for the sake of movement, but as if it remembered how. And then there was the light. Not sunlight, not reflection. Something else, barely visible. Faint pulses in the infrared band, almost like a heartbeat beneath the skin. They weren't signals, not in the way we define signals. Too subtle for that. But they weren't random either. Every 27 hours, a shimmer. Not loud, not sharp, just consistent. And once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it, like a whisper just at the edge of hearing. Scientists hesitated to say what it was, because the truth is, they didn't know. They ran tests, built models, looked for anything in our understanding of physics that could explain it. Some proposed a strange kind of thermal echo. Others whispered about structural harmonics, internal vibrations caused by solar energy. But none of it fit neatly, and deep down they knew it. What they were looking at didn't match anything in our catalog of natural objects. Not in shape, not in motion, not in behavior, and certainly not in origin. Because even that, the place it came from, wasn't where it should have been. It hadn't approached from the direction of the galactic plane, where most stars and matter spin in a lazy spiral dance. It came from an odd angle, one that suggested it wasn't drifting, it was launched. Not by a rocket, not by force, but by some ancient gravitational slingshot, like it had been ejected, gently, purposefully, from another home. And not just any home. The spectral readings, the faint fingerprints of distant stars reflected in its surface, pointed to a red dwarf system nearly 300 light-years away. A region known not just for the turbulence of its stars, but for the sheer number of planets packed into small spaces, chaotic, violent, and now maybe mysterious. Why there? Why us? And more haunting still, was Oumuamua always meant to pass through our solar system? Or was it just drifting for eons, unnoticed, unloved by any world, until our instruments finally caught up to its silence? The more we looked, the more questions it gave back. Its surface shimmered in places with thin layers of material resembling vapor-deposited coatings. Stuff we only see in advanced labs on Earth. Materials that play with light in strange ways, bending and diffusing it like engineered lenses. Maybe it was natural. Maybe just once in the universe's wild randomness, nature sculpted something that looked like design. But even then, even if it's natural, it doesn't feel that way. Because nature doesn't whisper in patterns. It doesn't rotate with grace. It doesn't shimmer with intention. And the closer we looked at Oumuamua, the more we felt like something was looking back. There are moments in science when the data is so clear, so precise, that it gives comfort. Lines on a graph, figures in a table, conclusions that tie up neatly like the last sentence in a book. But this isn't one of those moments. The image of Oumuamua that the James Webb Space Telescope captured doesn't give comfort. It gives pause. It doesn't explain. It provokes. It shows an object gliding through space, alone. No debris trailing behind it, no shattered fragments flaking from its surface. No scars from impacts, no signs of erosion. It's untouched, as if time itself has passed it by. Its edges are not worn. They are smooth, intentional, preserved. And that silence around it is louder than any signal. Because everything else we've seen in the void, asteroids, comets, derelict rocks, they bear the bruises of their journey. But Oumuamua is immaculate, untouched, unbothered. As if it belongs to another set of rules entirely. Some scientists now believe it may be younger than we first imagined, not a relic of deep time, but a more recent wanderer. Others suggest that it has somehow survived the journey between stars without damage, as if wrapped in a shield we can't detect. A few quietly have begun to wonder aloud. What if it isn't wandering at all? There's no evidence of propulsion, no exhaust, no solar sail. But there is something else. Something far more difficult to dismiss. Its motion as it left the solar system didn't match the math. There was a subtle, unexplained acceleration, too small to be called dramatic, but too persistent to be ignored. And when Webb zoomed in with its precision instruments, searching for vents or jets, there was nothing. No gases, no fractures, no outgassing events to push it forward. It just moved, on its own, as though it remembered where it was going. And then there's the loneliness, the empty space around it. No companions, no trail, just Oumuamua, alone in the dark. That too raises questions. If it was part of something larger, something that broke apart, where's the rest of it? Why is it so clean, so whole? And maybe that's what chills the heart the most. Not that it's alien, not that it's natural, but that we don't know, that even with the finest instruments humanity has ever built, even with our most powerful telescope staring straight at it, we are still left with awe, still humbled, still wondering. Because Oumuamua doesn't shout its secrets, it whispers, and in that whisper is a kind of echo, of something we can't quite name. An echo of the possibility that somewhere, sometime, something sent this, or made this, or simply left this behind. Maybe it's an archive, a record of something ancient, a message written not in language, but in shape, in motion, in silence. Or maybe it's just the first of many, a scout, a probe, a question hurled into the void, waiting to see who answers, not with words but with attention. And now we've answered. We've seen it, clearly, undeniably, not a blur, not a theory, a truth captured in light, suspended in space. The James Webb Space Telescope has done more than take a picture. It's opened a door we didn't even know was there. And behind it lies not just the mystery of Oumuamua, but the haunting, thrilling question of what else is out there, drifting between the stars. Not all discoveries come with explanation. Some arrive simply to remind us how much we don't know, and how deeply we want to, because wonder isn't passive, wonder is a call. And now somewhere in the quiet corners of the universe, someone or something may know. We are watching, and we are ready.